Right, welcome back. This just in. President Duterte just ordered the immediate lifting or the ending of the government's unilateral ceasefire with the communist rebels. Duterte issued the order 2 hours after his deadline on a ceasefire declaration from the Communist Party of the Philippines, or the CPP, ended without any action from the CPP. Now, in line with the government-declared ceasefire, the president also ordered the AFP, or the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the PNP, or the Philippine National Police, to also withdraw the operational guidelines they issued in pursuance to that ceasefire declaration. Before the president issued the order, the National Democratic Front, or the NDF, the CPP's political arm, engaged in peace negotiations with the government, and according to the PPP, will reciprocate the government ceasefire, but only after it completes its investigation on the incident that prompted the president's deadline. Now, on Friday afternoon, Duterte said the CPP should reply to the government's unilateral ceasefire declaration by 5 p.m. on July 30. But that ended, and this was prompted by the New People's Army attack on government militias in Davao del Norte that killed 1 and hurt 4 others from the government side. Meanwhile, Pagasa said Tropical Depression Karina has accelerated further to 17 kilometers per hour towards north-northwest direction, but has maintained its maximum sustained winds of up to 55 kilometers per hour near the center. Moderate to heavy rains within 300 kilometers diameter of Karina may be expected. Fisher folks were alerted about the moderate to rough seas over the eastern seaboards of Luzon and Visayas. Now, take a look. Cagayan, including Babuyan Group of Islands, Apayao, Ilocos Norte, Isabela, Northern Aurora, Catanduanes, Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon, Northern and Eastern Samar have been put under storm signal number 1. Now, areas placed under signal number 1 will be the rest of the Visayas as well, Masbate, Camarines Norte and Quezon. They were also warned about the moderate to heavy rains, which may trigger flash floods and landslides. Meanwhile, some 2,031 passengers have been stranded in 12 ports across Bicol region as of 12 noon Saturday due to Tropical Depression Karina. The Philippine Coast Guard, Bicol, suspended sailing of all types of sea vessels on Friday after Pag-asa raised storm signal number 1 over Albay, Camarines Sur, Catanduanes, and Sorsogon. According to Pag-asa, Karina sustained its strength as it moves north-northwest at 15 kilometers per hour with maximum winds of 55 kilometers per hour near the center. As of 10 a.m., it was spotted at 175 kilometers east-northeast of Catarman, northern Samar. Meanwhile, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council has declared a blue alert status and advised all local government units, or LGUs, in Luzon and Visayas to strengthen their preparations for the onslaught of Tropical Depression Karina. The blue alert requires half of the agency's personnel to be ready for contingencies, and the RRMC issued Memorandum Circular number 26, raising the alert status to blue alert and subsequently directing its concerned member agencies to send their respective detailed duty officers to render duty at the NDRRMC. Likewise, RDRRMCs concerned are requested to submit their respective disaster preparedness reports to the NDRRMC. Going now to Syria, a maternity hospital there in the rebel-held area of Idlib province was extensively damaged after a direct hit, according to international charity Save the Children, which supports the hospital. Now, a video taken by Save the Children showed the heavily damaged hospital building with debris strewn around nearby and inside hospital rooms. The number of casualties is not yet known, according to the spokesman. The hospital is the only maternity facility for about 70 miles around. It works with around 1,300 women and children a month and delivered about 340 babies last month. Meanwhile, Save the Children's Health Program Manager for Northwest Syria urged all sides in the conflict to stop targeting hospitals. The airstrike killed at least 2 people near the maternity unit in Idlib.
They were waiting, they are women who are delivering in the hospital. So the 2 people died. They were waiting a woman who's doing a delivery inside the hospital. And the other injured people, most of them They were women. They were trying to be informed about their husbands that they are waiting outside. And actually, one woman, she's lost her leg, and she was transferred to Turkey to receive the treatment. Each month, we provide more than 300 deliveries. Most of them are the cesarean sections, because women now in Syria, they prefer the cesarean sections because they are scared of delivering at night.
Meanwhile, Central Intelligence Agency Director John Brennan said he was not optimistic about the future of Syria.
So we need to be able to have some sense that Assad is on the way out. There can be a transition period, but it needs to be clear that he is not part of Syria's future. Until that happens, until there is at least the beginning or the acknowledgement of that transition, you're going to have Syrians dying, continue to die, because many of them are trying to reclaim that country for the good of Syria's future, but many of them also want Syria to be the safe haven for terrorists. So I don't know whether or not Syria can be put back together again.
The twin U.S. goals in Syria have been ending the violence that already has claimed some 400,000 lives, according to UN estimates, and seeking a political process to replace President Assad, whom President Barack Obama has said must go. Meanwhile, the UN Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, voices growing concern regarding the humanitarian situation in Aleppo, where he says the clock is ticking.
Aleppo. The situation is extremely serious, no doubt. There is probably, we heard, 2 to 3 weeks of supply, and in view of the bombing of the warehouses, medical facilities, bakeries, and the need of treating wounded people when, in fact, the medical facility are being hit, the humanitarian situation is getting more and more concerning. The city is de facto besieged because it is almost militarily completely encircled. The clock is therefore ticking. There is no doubt about that.
2 United Nations agencies warned the UN Security Council that ongoing conflicts around the world have pushed more than 56 million people into crisis or emergency levels of food insecurity and are hindering efforts to eradicate malnutrition. Now, according to a series of 17 country briefs prepared for the Security Council by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, and a UN World Food Program, the WFP, Yemen and Syria top the list in terms of sheer numbers of people whose food security is being negatively impacted by ongoing conflict. Now, according to the agencies, expressed in terms of the Integrated Food Security Classification phase scale, 14 million people, more than half the population, in Yemen are in a state of hunger crisis or emergency. Indeed, 8.7 million people, 37% of the pre-conflict population in Syria, need urgent food, nutrition, and livelihoods assistance. Furthermore, a staggering 89% of all Syrian refugees currently in Lebanon also require urgent food, nutrition, and livelihood assistance. The briefs also noted that in South Sudan, where the situation is rapidly deteriorating, 4.8 million people are in urgent need of food, nutrition, and livelihoods assistance. Similarly, millions of people are still wrestling with high levels of food insecurity in countries that are coming out of extended periods of civil strife, such as the Central African Republic and Colombia. The agencies also warned that post-conflict countries with high food insecurity are 40% more likely to relapse into conflict within a 10-year time span if hunger levels are not addressed. Hundreds of people rallied in major cities across Australia criticizing the government's response to video showing Aboriginal children being tear-gassed and abused in prison. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull has ordered an inquiry into the treatment of children in the detention center after the Australian Broadcasting Corporation this week aired footage showing guards tear-gassing teenage inmates and strapping a half-naked hooded boy to a chair. But he rejected calls for a broader national inquiry. The UN Human Rights High Commission called on Australia to compensate children abused in prison. The commission also called on the government to ratify the optional protocol to Convention Against Torture, which would allow independent investigators to inspect detention facilities. About 300 people turned out in Sydney, while similar protests were held in other major cities across the country.
Incarceration and brutality is the experience of Aboriginal people in this country, and the response of government is the response of the people who are committing these atrocities. A Royal Commission set up with judges that are part of the power structure. That's part of the problem.
I want more people to support their campaign, and I think we should find a way to fundamentally to help the community and then to reduce the young Aboriginal in custody.
Aborigines comprise just 3% of Australia's population but make up 27% of those in prison and represent 94% of the Northern Territory's juvenile inmates. Meanwhile, Dutch police conducted security searches around Amsterdam Schiphol Airport on Saturday in response to indications of a threat, according to an official, causing traffic jams during the busy summer holiday season. The National Coordinator for Counterterrorism and Security Policy, or NCTV, provided no details of the possible threat, but it said extra security measures were implemented, including vehicle searches. The national threat level in the Netherlands was unchanged at substantial, or one notch from the highest. After attacks by Islamic radicals in France, Belgium, and Germany, the Netherlands is considered a prominent target because it supports U.S.-led military operations against ISIS in the Middle East.
From the local of Kailua-Kona, district of Hawaii Pacific, to all the brethren around the world, happy 102nd anniversary! Aloha!
From the local congregation of Jakarta, Indonesia, Ecclesiastical District of Southeast Asia too.
Happy 102nd anniversary!
To our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, and to all the brethren throughout the whole world. We, the members in the local congregation of Stratford in the Ecclesiastical District of United Kingdom, would like to greet everyone.
Happy 102nd anniversary!
From the locale of Daly City, District of Northwest California, we would like to greet our brothers and sisters throughout the world.
Happy 102nd anniversary!
Mula po dito sa lokal ng Yokohama, Distrito Eklesyastiko ng Japan, ay bumabati kami sa aming pinakamamahal na tagapamahalang pangkalahatan, ang kapatid na Eduardo V. Manalo, at sa lahat ng mga kapatid sa buong mundo.
Happy 102nd anniversary po!
Ang mga may tungkulin po sa lokal ng Yokota ay bumabati sa lahat ng mga kapatid sa buong mundo na
Happy 102nd anniversary!